How was your day? Maybe you carried something today that wasn't really yours. A mood from someone else. A blame that landed in the wrong place. That kind of weight. There's a god in old Japan who knew that exact weight. Cast out of heaven for a storm of feeling. Sent walking alone. His name was Susanoo. If today bruised you a little, he would understand. Tonight, you don't have to carry any of it. Lean back. Let the road become his. Because before he ever fought what's coming next, he was just walking, like you, away from a long day. 8 necks, against a low moon. 8 heads weaving in slow, patient hunger. The mountain itself seems to lean back. A young woman is hidden in his hair as a small wooden comb. And he draws his sword. This is the moment most stories race to. We'll get there gently. Because how he ended up here, sword raised, a girl in his hair. That's the part worth not rushing. Because here's the strange thing. The serpent wasn't his problem. The girl wasn't his daughter. The village wasn't his home. He owed none of them anything. A god in disgrace walking through a country not his own. And yet he stops. He listens, he stays. Why does someone with nothing left choose to lift someone else's grief? Maybe you've done that. Set down your own load to help someone else with theirs. The old stories noticed when people did this. They thought it was worth remembering. This is what we do here. One night, one story. Something that happened a long time ago. And still has something soft to say to a tired person at the end of a day. Get comfortable now. Adjust your pillow. Let your shoulders settle. If you drift off before the sword falls, the old gods of Japan won't mind. They've watched a great many mortals fall asleep before them. This is only the beginning. The serpent wetting the sword pulled from a tail. All of that is still ahead. But not tonight. Tonight, just this. If tonight felt like something, subscribe. We'll be here next week. Another story, another night like this one. Now back to ours. Pine trees, frost in the lower branches. The sound of water moving over smooth stones. This is the highland country of Izumo. In a time before any city you would know. A man comes walking down out of the clouds. That's the only way to say it. Tall, wild-haired. A bronze sword at his left hip. He has nowhere left to go, so he goes here. He has been called many things by the gods upstairs. Storm Trouble. The brother who broke his sister's light. Mostly sent away. Now he is just one more figure on a road in old Japan. The river runs cold here, frost on the reeds. He stops at a bend where the willow branches lean low, and notices something on the surface of the water that does not belong. Chopsticks. Just a pair of chopsticks drifting downstream. But chopsticks mean a hearth. A hearth means a home. And a home means people, somewhere upstream, and they are crying. He could keep walking. A god in disgrace owes no one. He turns toward the sound anyway. The road has chosen him a different ending. One stranger and softer than the one he was given. To know why a storm god is walking a frost-rimmed river in old Izumo, we have to go back, just briefly, to the high plain above the clouds, and a sister whose light he could not bear to be near. His mother was Izanami, gone into the land of the dead before he ever met her. His father, Izanagi, gave each child a domain. The sun to one daughter, the moon to one son, and to Susanoo, the sea. He was meant to rule the wide salt sea, but he wept instead. He wept until rivers ran dry and crops withered. He missed his mother, the sea he could not love. His father grew weary of the storm of grief. Then go, Izanagi said. Go to your mother, leave the sea. So Susanoo turned his face up toward the heavens, to say goodbye to his sister first. Amaterasu watched him climb. Her brother had always been weather. She did not trust weather. She put on her armor, took up her bow, and waited for him at the top of the cloud stair. He came in peace. He came to say goodbye. But peace and storm rarely arrive in the same shape. And what he meant to be a parting became, instead, a quarrel. He swore an oath. She doubted it. To prove his good heart, they did a strange and ancient thing. They made children together from each other's possessions, and read each other's worth in the births. She named them. He claimed his honor. And then, because he was a storm, he celebrated, loudly, wildly, the way a storm celebrates. The heavens were not built for it. He broke down rice paddies built by his sister's hand. He flung a flayed horse through the roof of her sacred weaving hall. A maiden inside was killed. The whole high plain went silent. His sister did the only thing left to her. She took her light. She walked into a stone cave. She rolled the great stone closed behind her, and the world, every world, went dark. For a time the sun did not exist. Crops failed, rivers froze. The other gods coaxed her out, eventually. That is a story for another night. But Susanoo had to. They cut his beard. They pulled the nails from his fingers and toes. They piled gifts of guilt, payment on his back, and walked him to the edge of the heavens. They sent him down. He did not weep this time. He did not curse. He turned his back to the high plain. He walked. The path went down through cloud, through wind, through cold thinning gold, into gray. The path emptied him out at the head of a river he did not know. Pine trees. A wind that smelled of damp earth and cold stone. A country waiting, with no greeting prepared. Maybe you have arrived somewhere like that. Not where you meant to. Not where anyone was waiting. Just a place. And the question of what to do with the next hour. He sat for a while on a flat stone at the river's edge. He drank from cupped hands. The water was sharp with cold. He let it hurt. Sometimes that helps. He did not yet know the country's name. He did not know that the river running beside him was called High, or that it had been turning red, lately, in its upstream reaches, for reasons no one downstream understood. Storm shakes the upper hills. Thunder shakes the mountain. He'd known thunder all his life. But thunder in this country sounded different, as if something below the rocks was answering. He shook the water from his hands. He stood. He had nowhere to be. But the country itself seemed to lean upstream, the way a held breath leans toward the next sound. Footsteps echo on damp riverbank gravel. He walks slowly, in the way a tall man walks who has nowhere to be, and is no longer in a rush to be unwelcome anywhere. The light moves through the afternoon. He walks past empty fishing weirs, past a torii gate the river has half swallowed, past a shrine with no offerings on its step. Something has gone wrong here. He thinks of his sister. He pushes the thought away. The thought comes back. He keeps walking. Some things you carry as you walk, until walking becomes the way you carry them. Then he sees them. 2 pieces of pale wood drifting on the river toward him. He bends. He scoops them out. Chopsticks. Plain. Worn at the tips. Used by someone recently. This is one of those small moments the old stories love. A god in disgrace, kneeling in a riverbank, and the whole arc of his life turning on a pair of chopsticks. He thinks like a man with a hearth would think. Someone has eaten today. Someone has set down their bowl. Someone has wept. He listens. He hears nothing yet except the water. He walks. The willow trees thin. The valley narrows. The light deepens through dusty rose into pale violet. Somewhere ahead, a thin column of gray smoke rising into the sky. A small thatched hut on a low rise, just above the river. Smoke from a stone hearth visible through a single open doorway. A faded indigo cloth in the entrance, drawn half aside. The sound he expected. 3 voices. An old man, an old woman, and a younger one. All of them weeping, not loud. The kind of weeping that has been going on for years. He stands a long moment outside the doorway. He could still walk past. He could still be no one. He says instead, in a voice rusty from Disgrace, "I heard your river.
May I come in?"
The crying stops. There is a long silence. Then a small sound, someone setting down a wooden cup. The faded cloth lifts. A thin old face looks out, eyes nearly closed by wrinkles. The old man does not ask his name. He looks at the bronze sword. He looks at the eyes above the sword. He nods slowly. "Come in then, traveler. We have nothing left worth hiding." Inside, 3 figures around a low stone hearth. The old man, his wife, and between them, a young woman in pale rice white silk, her long black hair loose, a single white silk ribbon at the crown. She does not look up at first. She has the careful stillness of someone who has been waiting a long time for something terrible, and has practiced holding herself together until it comes. The old man pours a cup of pale tea with hands that shake. The old woman cannot meet the stranger's eye. Susanoo sits across from them on the worn mat, the sword laid at his right hand. "You found a chopstick," the old man says. He has noticed the worn pair tucked into the stranger's belt cord. "You followed it upstream. There is no kindness left in you that we deserve." "Tell me anyway," the stranger says. "I have nothing else to do tonight. Stay with this." This is the moment that matters before the end of the story. The old man looks at his wife. She nods the smallest motion. She has decided the stranger should know. So he begins. "I am Ashinazuchi. My wife is Tenazuchi. Our daughter is Kushinadaheim. My name means the elder who strokes feet. My wife's the one who strokes hands. You will understand why soon. We have had 8 daughters. 7 are gone. This is the last." Susanoo does not interrupt. He does not flinch. He has lost a mother. He has lost a sister. He knows there are some things you only let out of your mouth one piece at a time. "There is a serpent," the old man says. "It comes down from the mountain ravines once each year. It has 8 heads, 8 tails. It takes a daughter, always our youngest. 7 autumns have come and gone. 7 daughters have walked up that path. None walked back. The last one is here, beside us. The serpent will come again with this moon." We pause here, just for a moment, because in old Japan, those chopsticks on the river, the ones that brought him upstream, were never just chopsticks. They were a sacred thing. To eat with chopsticks was to share with the gods. A new pair was carved fresh, used once at a sacred meal, and floated downriver, back to the world of the kami who had given the rice. A chopstick on a river, then, was a kind of letter, from a hearth to the unseen world. The gods, finding one, were meant to know, there is a household here, there is a meal, there is gratitude. Susanoo, walking at the edge of that river, was a god whose people up above had cast him out. And here, downstream, a household was sending him a small wooden offering it did not know it was making. The old gods of Japan often arrived this way. Not in thunder, in a small piece of wood on a stream, in a knock at a hearth, in a stranger who said, "And we are back now, to that hearth." The old man finishes his story. The fire pops once. The young woman beside him still has not lifted her face. Susanoo looks at her and asks gently, the only question that matters. "What is your name?" he asks her. Not what is expected of her, not what she will become, just her name, as if she is still allowed to have one. Her father answers for her at first. "Kushinadaheim," he says. "Princess of the wondrous rice fields." A name they had given her when they still believed the rice fields might keep her. Then her own voice, quiet, small, but steady. "Yes, that is the name they gave me." She lifts her face for the first time. Dark eyes, long lashes, a face that has not slept properly in a long time. Maybe you've been looked at like that before. Across a fire, across a kitchen table. The look of someone who is asking, without words, whether you see them as a person or only as a problem. The storm god sees a person. He sees 7 sisters who walk the same path before her. He sees what the country has done with its grief, and he sets his cup down on the worn straw mat. "I will help you," he says. The old man looks up sharply. The old woman draws in a startled breath. The young woman does not move. Storm gods, in this country, are not known for kindness. "Why?" the old man asks. He is not refusing. He is asking the only honest question. He does not yet know who his guest is. He only knows that no kindness has come to this hut for 7 autumns. The stranger considers his answer for a long moment. The fire pops twice. Outside, the river runs. Inside, no one breathes. Then he says, simply, "Because I have a sister." He does not say more than that. He does not say, "I have hurt my sister." He does not say, "I am Susanoo." He says only this, and the old man understands in the way old people often do. The old man draws himself up. He looks the stranger in the eye. he says. Then I will tell you everything I know about the serpent. And I will give you anything in this hut that might help. The young woman watches them both. She has spent 7 autumns watching the men of the village argue what to do with her. None of them has ever, until now, asked her what she would like. Susanoo turns to her. And you, he says. Would you like to walk that path again? This autumn. The question is so plainly asked that the old woman puts a hand to her mouth. Honestly, slowly, as if her answer has not been allowed to take up room in her own chest until now. Then she says, no, I would not. It is the simplest thing said in the hut all evening. It is also the thing that turns the story. Sometimes that is how stories turn. Not on a sword, on a quiet sentence said by a tired person. Then we will not let it happen, Susanoo says. He does not say how. He does not yet know how. But he says it, and the saying of it costs him something, and he means every word. The old man takes a long breath. He has not breathed like that in 7 years. Then he begins to tell the stranger the parts he knows about the serpent. There is more to know than he expected. Its body is the length of 8 valleys, he says. 8 heads, 8 tails. Eyes red as the lantern coals at festival nights. On its back a forest grows. Cypress old stones. Its underside is soft, pale, always wet somehow. It bleeds when struck, and the rivers around its body have been running red for years. The high river does not run red by chance. Susanoo listens with his head bowed slightly. He is not afraid yet. He is calculating. He has fought storms. He has fought himself. He has not, so far, fought a forest with 8 throats. 8 throats, he says aloud, mostly to himself. 8 throats means 8 thirsts. And 8 thirsts, he looks up at the old man, can be satisfied, if we are clever. The old woman, who has not spoken, suddenly does. We have rice fields, she says. And we have a brewer in the next village. And we have, though we have spoken of it to no one, 8 large vats. 8 vats, Susanoo repeats. He looks at her. He looks at her husband. He begins to smile slowly. The first smile in this hut in 7 autumns. Then we will brew something the serpent has never tasted before. The young woman watches them. The fire pops once more. Outside the river runs cold under the stars. Somewhere deep in the mountain ravines, a great many heads are sleeping. The plan is simple, the way most good plans are. 8 vats, 8 gates, sake stronger than any the country has yet brewed. And one young woman who must, somehow, not be there, and yet still be there. I have a thought about that, Susanoo says. He looks at Kushanada Haim. He chooses his words. If you are willing, I would change you, just for the night, into something the serpent will not see. She considers, he waits. He does not press her. He has spent his whole life pressing the world. Tonight, he is learning a different kind of strength. The kind that lets another person decide. I am willing, she says. Tell me, what shape? He smiles again, smile a little sad. A comb, he says. A small wooden comb. Tucked into my hair, so I will know you are safe. Her father makes a small sound, half protest, half awe. Her mother covers her mouth again. She herself does not flinch. She says, "A come. Then I will come with you, and not be there, and be there." This is the strange thing about old myths. They do not save the daughter by hiding her in a tower. They save her by tucking her, gently, into the hair of the person who is fighting for her. Outside the wind shifts. The old man stands. There is work to do, a brewer to wake, vats to clean, walls to plan, gates to cut. The fire dies low. The night in old Izumo has only just begun. Dawn comes slow over the high river. The mist sits low. Susanoo is already awake, walking the slope behind the hut, picking out the patch of ground where the 8-vat platform will stand. The space he chooses is wide enough for 8 vats, and the 8-walled fence around them. Far enough from the hut that the family will not be near, close enough to the river for a fast retreat. He marks it, he walks it, he thinks like a builder now. He has not been a builder before. The gods of his old life were never asked to build. They were asked, mostly, to break. Down at the hut, the old woman has lit the morning fire. The old man has gone to wake the brewer. The young woman stands at the doorway, watching the stranger on the slope above her family's home. She is not used to being protected. She is used to being prepared. Bath, clean robe, walk up the path. She has lived 7 autumns of her sisters doing exactly that. This year, something different. Up the slope, Susanoo finishes his marking. He returns to the hut. He sits with the old woman by the fire while she cooks rice. He watches the way she handles the wooden spoon. He notices her hands. They are her hands. Tenazuchi, she who strokes hands. The story of a couple's whole life is in their names. He has been on this earth less than a day, and he is starting to know them. The old man returns by mid-morning, leaning hard on his oak staff. The brewer of the next village walks behind him. A small round man with a flushed face and clay-stained sleeves. The brewer bows 9 times before he speaks, because he can see, somehow, that the stranger sitting by the fire is not a stranger at all. Brewers, in old Japan, sometimes saw what others missed. We will brew strong sake, the brewer says when he is finally upright. 8 times brewed, 8 times rested. Stronger than anything I have made in 30 years. The serpent will not have tasted such a thing. The old man has summoned the village. Word has gone out, quietly, that something is being attempted at the hut by the river. 8 men come up the path before noon, 8 more by sunset. They do not ask why. The 7 autumns have weighed on the village too. Each man has a sister, a daughter, a wife. The thing on the mountain is, in some way, every household's grief. Susanoo greets each man. He does not say his name. He says only, "I am the man who walked here this morning. Tonight we begin." That is enough. The village does not need a god, they need a hand. That night they do not sleep. They cut cypress on the slope. They peel bark. They plane planks by lantern light. The whole hillside smells of fresh wood and oil. The old man oversees with his oak staff. Inside the hut, the brewer has begun his work. Polished rice in a wide wooden tub. Spring water in a deep clay jar. A small portion of pale yeast culture, wrapped in a square of clean white cloth. He works in silence. Brewing strong sake is, in old Japan, almost a kind of prayer. You wash the rice, you steam it, you cool it, you crumble in the yeast, and then you wait. Kushinada Haim helps him. She fetches water, she washes the rice. She watches the brewer's hands. She asks no questions. She is learning, perhaps, the shape of doing something that might save her own life. Up on the slope, the framework of the 8-walled fence begins to rise. Pale cypress posts driven into damp earth. Pale planks lashed across them. The villagers work without speaking. The night smells like cut wood. Susanoo, in the center of it, lifts what no 2 men can lift between them. He does not show off. He does not explain. The villagers see and choose to say nothing, the way wise people do. By the second dawn, the 8 walls stand. 8 low gates have been cut into them, 1 in each side, just large enough for a single great head to pass through to drink. The villagers hang white paper streamers from a low rope along the inner walls. Shide. The old way of marking sacred ground. Whatever happens here will happen inside a place the kami have noticed. The 8 black, lacquered vats are carried up the slope by groups of 4 men each. They are placed in a careful horseshoe pattern inside the fence, 1 in front of each gate. Wooden ladles rest on each rim. Susanoo walks the inside of the enclosure once. He counts the gates. He counts the vats. He stands at the center. He looks up at the patch of pale sky framed by the 8-walled top. He nods once. Down at the hut, the first batch of sake is finished. The brewer pours out a small wooden cup. He tastes. He closes his eyes. He nods. He does not smile. This sake is not made to be drunk in joy. The villagers carry the 8 vats up the slope full to the brim. Cloudy, strong, 8 times brewed. The smell of it rises with the steam in the cool air. Even the birds in the trees have gone quiet. The vats are lowered into place inside the 8-walled enclosure. The wooden ladles are laid on the rims. The white paper shide drift quietly in a low breeze. Everything is ready except for the one thing that matters most. Down at the hut, dusk. The young woman sits on a worn straw mat across from Susanoo. The brewer has gone home. The villagers have gone home. The old man and old woman wait at the far side of the hearth. He sets the small wooden tortoise, shell-calm on the mat between them. The single white silk ribbon is already tied along its spine. The room smells of pine smoke and rice. Are you certain? He asks her once more. I am certain. He places one open palm above the calm. She places her own small hand above his. He closes his eyes. There is no flash of light, no thunder, only a small soft sound like a sigh let out at the end of a very long day. When he opens his eyes, there is only one hand on the mat, his. The old woman makes a small sound at the back of her throat. The old man sets one hand against his chest. Susanoo lifts the calm gently between two fingers. He says softly, I have you. He tucks the calm carefully into the cord at the crown of his hair, beside the single red cord. He tightens it once, twice. He bows his head briefly toward the place where her body used to kneel. The old man stands. He says, we will not come up the hill tonight. We will not watch. If we hear nothing, we will know. His voice does not break. He has had 7 autumns of practice. Susanoo nods once. He stands. He sheathes the bronze sword. He bows low to the old couple. They bow back lower than him. He turns, ducks through the doorway, and steps out into the evening. The path up the slope is short. He walks it slowly. He is in no rush. The 8-walled enclosure waits ahead, white paper streamers drifting in the low breeze. The mountain ravines beyond are very still. Inside the enclosure he checks each vat once more. Cloudy white sake, wooden ladles in place. 8 low gates. He stands at the center. He sets his hand briefly to the cord at his crown, to her. He chooses a place. There is a wide flat rock just outside the 8th gate, half hidden by a cypress sapling. From there, he can see all 8 gates. From there, the serpent will not see him at all. He waits. The sky deepens through pale violet into deep indigo. The moon rises over the eastern ridge. The white paper streamers along the inner rope move once, then settle. The mountain is very still. He thinks of the calm in his hair. He thinks of the old couple at their hearth. He thinks of his sister, very far above. He thinks of how strange it is that any of this is happening at all. Maybe you have known a night like that. The work is done. The plan is set. There is nothing left for you to do but wait. The waiting is sometimes the hardest part of a story. Hours pass. The moon climbs. The air cools. He breathes slowly. He has been a storm all his life. He is learning tonight to be the still place inside one. Sometime past midnight, he feels it before he hears it. A low pressure in the air. As if the mountain has begun to breathe, the cypress sapling near him shivers without wind. He does not move. Then a sound far away, a long slow scraping deep in the rocks of a mountain ravine. Not a footstep. A body sliding. Something very large is beginning to move. The villagers down at the river hear nothing. The old couple in the hut hear nothing. Even the brewer, asleep in the next village, does not stir. The mountain lifts itself for one listener only. Susanoo stays low. He does not draw the bronze sword. Drawing too soon, he knows, would be a kind of fear. He waits for the gates to do their work first. Then his. Time stretches. The moon moves. The shadow of the 8-walled enclosure crawls across the slope. The cold deepens. He breathes against the cold. He waits. He waits. Then the air shifts. The smell of the mountain changes. It is no longer pine and damp stone. It is now something deeper. Wet scale, old blood, river silt. The serpent has come down out of its ravine. The villagers in their houses suddenly fall silent in their sleep. Somewhere in the next valley, a single dog begins to howl. A bird flies up from a tree without making a sound and never returns. Stay with this. We have come a long way to this part. The moon is high. The vats are full. A storm god is crouched behind a rock with a girl in his hair. The serpent is almost here. We pause again, just for a moment, because in old Japan, sake, strong rice wine, was never only a drink, It was an offering. It was a bridge. It was a kind of careful prayer in liquid form. When you wanted to please the gods, you offered sake. When you wanted to bind two families together at a wedding, you shared sake. When you wanted to tell a violent kami to please go elsewhere, you set out sake. A serpent in a ravine, drinking too much sake, was not, to the old listeners, only a clever trap. It was the world's first peace offering. Terrible, but recognizable, the trap is also a ritual. And the kam in his hair. A kam, in old Japan, was a private, intimate thing. Hair was carefully kept. To carry someone else's kam was to carry, in a small way, their soul. So when Susanoo tucked the kam into his hair, the old listeners understood something modern ears can miss. He was not hiding her. He was promising, with his own body, to keep her safe. Now we go back to the rock. He hears it now, really hears it. A long, slow rasp of scale on stone. The cypress saplings further up the slope shudder one by one as something passes between them. He breathes. He does not draw. The mist between the saplings begins to swirl. It does not swirl from wind. It swirls because something solid, something massive, is parting it from below. The world has narrowed. He has narrowed with it. A scent rolls down ahead of it. Wet stone, iron, something old. Something that has lain in the same hollow for too long. The smell catches at the back of his throat. He swallows once. He does not move. Then the first head appears. Just one. Rising slowly above the highest line of saplings on the upper slope. Black and red scales catching pale moonlight like wet lacquer. Eyes glowing dim like festival lanterns. Then a third. Then four more all together, weaving slow and patient against the moon. Then the eighth. The largest, last. 8 heads, in a low wide arc above the slope. Susanoo, behind the rock, does not draw. He counts. 1 head, 2. He goes through all 8. He notes which leans further than the others. Which trembles slightly, which seems hungrier. He files it all carefully away. The serpent comes down the slope without rushing. It has done this 7 times before. It has never been refused. It does not yet see the 8-walled fence. It only smells faintly sake. It expects, at the bottom of the slope, to find a young woman waiting in white silk. That is what was always there before. That is what it has tasted 7 times. Tonight, instead, 8 low gates. The 8 heads pause as one. They smell again sake, strong sake. 8 times brewed. The smell is sweet and heavy in the cold night air. It rises from inside the 8-walled enclosure in 8 thin curls. Sake is a kind of language. The serpent, who has tasted poor village sake at small offering shrines for centuries, now tastes something its long memory does not have a word for. It pauses. It tilts. It is interested. Susanoo, behind his rock, breathes very slowly. He thinks now. Or not yet. He decides, not yet. Let the serpent feed itself. Let it choose to come. A trap that closes itself is the strongest kind. The serpent decides. The 8 heads dip together. The long body uncoils from the upper slope and begins to flow, slow as river water, down toward the cleared ground and the 8-walled enclosure waiting there. The body is enormous. The body is the length of 8 valleys. As it flows, mountain moss falls in patches from its back. Small cypress trees, rooted there years ago, now scrape against pine trunks as it slides past. The first head reaches the first low gate. It pauses. It tilts. It pushes its broad face slowly through the opening. A wooden ladle on the rim of the first vat slips and clatters softly. The serpent does not flinch. One by one, the other heads find their gates. They do not communicate. They do not need to. Each head smells its own vat. Each head wants its own. The body has 8 thirsts, just as Susanoo guessed. From his rock, Susanoo watches the serpent feed. He does not move. He does not draw. He counts. He waits for the rhythm of the drinking to settle into the slow, steady draw. That means the body is letting its guard down. The drinking begins slow, cautious, then deeper, then greedy. The body between the gates begins to slacken. The tails lashing behind slow. The scaled flanks shudder once and then sink lower against the cool ground. Time slows. The moon moves a finger's width. The drinking continues. Inside the 8-walled enclosure, the 8 vats begin to empty. The thin curls of sake steam thin further. The cold air smells now of fermented rice and snake. A storm god could rush this. He could draw his sword now and try to take a head before another is lifted. He chooses not to. He has spent his life rushing. Tonight he is patient for her sake. The serpent's drinking changes. The pulls grow longer. The pauses grow longer. Now and then a head lifts a little, then settles back into its vat. The eyes are dimmer. The body is heavier on the ground. Susanoo, in the still air, allows himself a single thought of the calm in his hair. A small thank you, a small promise. Then he sets it aside. There is room only for the work now. The drinking slows further. 2 of the heads have stopped drinking entirely. They lie slumped over the rims of their vats, eyes closed, jaws slack. The cloudy white sake drips slowly back from their mouths into the wooden lacquer. A 3rd head slumps. A 4th. The body outside the walls shudders once and then settles fully against the cool ground. The 8 tails go still. The whole creature looks, from a small distance, like a great 8, armed sleeping thing. All 8, finally. All 8 drunk. All 8 slumped. The long body relaxes for the first time, perhaps in 100 years. The mountain itself seems to exhale. The moon, very high now, sets a calm pale light over the slope. Susanoo waits one more long breath. He listens for any change. None. He rises from behind the flat gray rock, slow as the moonlight itself. He draws the bronze sword. The blade catches the pale light cleanly. He does not announce himself. He does not speak. He walks, quietly, around the outside of the 8-walled enclosure to the first slumped head. He sets one foot, he sets the other. He raises the bronze sword in both hands. He does not strike yet. He looks once at the slumped head. He thinks of 7 daughters who never came back. He thinks of an old woman by a fire. He thinks of a small comb in his own hair. He does not strike in rage. He does not strike in fear. He strikes the way a builder builds, carefully, with his whole body behind it, once. The first head, and the long night turns. The first head falls. The body does not stir. The drink is too deep. He moves to the second head. He sets his feet. He raises the sword. Once. The second falls. He moves to the third. One by one the heads come away. The long body shudders by the third. By the 5th it shifts but does not wake. By the 7th, only one head still rises and falls in slow drunken breath. The 7th head falls. The body now finally begins to wake. It is too late. Susanoo stands beside the 8th head with the bronze sword raised. He breathes once more, he strikes. The 8th head falls. The long body convulses once across the cleared ground. The tails lash. Then they still. The moon, very high, looks down on a slope where 8 black and red heads now lie in 8 separate places. His breath is hard. His arms are tired. His face is wet, not blood, not sweat. He has not noticed yet. He is still here. The calm at his crown is still there. Then he hears a small new sound. Something that doesn't belong. A quiet metallic ring, somewhere along the long body. Like a bronze blade striking another blade in a sheath. He listens. He hears it again. It is coming from the 8th tail. The largest tail, lying out across the lower slope. He walks toward it slowly. His own bronze sword feels suddenly thoughtful in his hand. He kneels at the 8th tail. He sets the tip of his bronze blade carefully against the scaled length. He presses. The blade does not slide cleanly. It rings softly against something hard inside. 8 necks against the moon. The serpent has come and the trap is held. The girl in his hair is still safe. The mountain is, for the first time in 7 autumns, quiet. But the story is not yet over. The bronze sword is ringing in his hand. There is something inside the 8th tail. Something his blade does not want to cut. Something that should not be there. He does not yet know what waits inside that tail. He does not yet know that what he finds there will travel, in the centuries to come, into the hands of emperors. Tonight he only knows something is hidden. The villagers will say later that they saw a faint blue light up on the slope that night. They will not be wrong. It begins now. A soft, cool glow, just visible inside the dark scales of the tail. He sets his palm flat against the 8th tail. He breathes once. He says, quietly, almost to himself, "What did you swallow?" The serpent, of course, does not answer, but the soft blue light inside the tail brightens. He sits back on his heels for a moment. He looks up the slope at the 8 scattered heads. He looks down at the glowing tail beneath his palm. The work he came to do is done. A new question has begun. He lifts the bronze sword once more, carefully, not in violence now, in curiosity. He sets the blade tip against the scales and presses. The blade rings against the hidden thing again, and slips a little to one side. He uses the slip. He follows the line his blade has chosen. He cuts shallow. He cuts long. He opens the 8th tail down its center, the way a fisherman opens a fish for the bone. At the center of the 8th tail, embedded in the muscle, lies a sword. Not a bronze sword, not a copper sword. A slim, straight blade of metal he does not recognize. Pale, glowing, soft, cool blue, untouched by the serpent's blood. He stares. He has never seen such a thing. Not in the high plain above the clouds. Not in his father's hand. The sword does not belong to this earth. And yet it has been inside this beast for who knows how long. He puts the bronze sword aside on the wet grass. He reaches with both hands toward the new blade. He pauses. He has been a god who took his whole life. Tonight he asks first. He says quietly, "May I?" He does not know who he is asking. The serpent, the mountain, his sister very far above. The cool blue light of the blade brightens once. He decides that is enough. He closes his hands gently around the hilt, a hilt of pale wood wrapped in dark silk cord, perfectly preserved. He lifts. The blade comes free of the tail in one slow, clean draw. It does not weigh much. He stands. He holds the new blade up to the moon. The pale metal catches the moonlight and answers it, glow for glow. 8 white clouds, somewhere far up in the night sky, gather softly in the moon's path. He thinks of his sister. He thinks of the doorway of light high in the sky he cannot enter. He thinks of the cave she walked into and the stone she rolled shut behind her. The sword in his hands feels, strangely, like an answer. He lowers the new blade. He lays it carefully across the flat gray rock where he had been crouching only an hour ago. He does not touch it again, not yet. There are other things to attend to first. He lifts his right hand to the cord at his crown. He touches the small wooden tortoise shell comb tucked there. He says, almost to her, "You can come back now." He kneels and sets the comb on the open ground. He places one open palm above the comb. He breathes once. There is no flash of light, no thunder, only a small soft sound, like a held breath finally released. The comb stirs. She returns, not all at once, slowly, like a person waking from sleep. The pale rice, white silk first. Then the long black hair flowing past her waist. Then her dark almond eyes, her soft full lips. Kushanada Haim on the slope alive. She takes a breath. She lifts her head. She sees the 8 scattered serpent heads in the moonlight. She sees the long fallen body. She sees the man kneeling in front of her, head bowed, hands open in his lap. She does not scream. She does not weep. She has spent 7 autumns expecting to be the one lying still on a slope tonight. The strangeness of being upright, alive, instead, it takes a few quiet breaths to learn. He lifts his eyes to hers. He does not speak. He has spent his whole life rushing words. Tonight, after everything, he leaves it to her. She speaks first. "You are very wet." It is the smallest sentence. Nothing about the slope. Nothing about the 7 sisters. She has chosen to begin again, gently, with what is in front of her. He laughs once. A tired, surprised sound. He lifts a hand to his face and looks at it as if surprised. He is wet. The serpent, the work, the grief, the relief he had not noticed. They sit on the slope a long while in silence. The moon moves another finger's width. The serpent does not move. The villagers do not come up. The 2 of them are, for the moment, the only 2 awake in the world. She asks, finally, "Did anyone get hurt?" She does not mean him. She does not mean the serpent. She means her parents in the hut. He understands. He says, "No. They are at the hearth. They will hear nothing all night." "They will hear in the morning," she says. "When the village comes up the slope. When the men shout. When my mother is the last to arrive, because she will be slower." He nods. She is right. He had not thought that far yet. He has fought a serpent. He has not yet thought about how to tell two old people in a hut by a river that their last daughter is alive. She has thought of it for him already. He notices. He does not say it. He says, "Stay here a little longer. There is one more thing I want to look at, before the village comes up." He glances toward the lower slope, the eighth tail, the slim pale glowing blade laid across the flat gray rock. She nods. She does not ask what he found in the tail. She is already learning that this man, however storm-shaped, leaves space for things to be told when they are ready to be told. He stands. He walks down the slope to the flat gray rock. He stands above the slim pale glowing blade. He thinks for a long quiet moment. Then he understands, all at once, what the sword is for. It is not for him. It was never for him. He has been a god of wrecking. The blade in the tail, glowing soft and cool, it is, somehow, a gift. And it is not addressed to him. It is addressed to the doorway in the sky. Stay with this. This is the moment that matters before the end of the story. He thought he had come to fight a serpent. The story now thinks he has come, instead, to bring his sister something he does not yet know how to give. He hears, very faintly, a small footstep behind him. She has come down to stand at his shoulder. Without speaking, she lifts a folded square of pale rice, white silk from her sleeve. She holds it out, for the blade. He does not ask how she knew. She does not explain. He takes the silk. He lifts the slim pale blade from the flat gray rock. He lays it onto the silk. He folds the silk closed over the metal. The cool blue glow softens. The story, with that small motion, has just turned again. They walk slowly back up the slope together. The silk-wrapped blade rests in his hands. The bronze sword is sheathed again at his hip. The eight-walled cypress enclosure stands quiet, the white paper streamers lifting softly in a low breeze. They sit at the edge of the slope with the silk-wrapped blade between them. The eastern sky begins, very slowly, to soften from indigo into pale violet. The first birds, somewhere far off, dare to sing. She asks him softly, "What is it?" Not a question that needs to be answered now. A question with all morning to think about. He looks at the silk. He says, "I think it is for my sister." She does not press for more. She has gathered by now that his sister is somewhere very far away, and that the distance between them is not made of mountains. It is made of something older. He tells her, then, not all of it. The pieces he can carry without breaking. The flayed horse through the roof. The maiden in the weaving hall. The cave with the great round stone. He keeps his voice low and steady. When he is done, she does not look at him with horror. She does not look at him with pity. She looks at him with the same steady, careful attention she gave him at the hearth. And she nods once. Maybe you have been listened to like that. Not analyzed. Not corrected, just heard, the whole way through, by someone whose face did not change. The old stories knew what that kind of attention felt like, and they kept it. The eastern horizon turns pale gold. Down at the river, the old man is already awake. He has not slept all night. He stands at the doorway of the hut, one hand on the frame, looking up at the slope. He sees against the pale gold sky two figures coming slowly down the path toward the hut. One tall and broad, one slender and small. He sees the slender one. He puts his hand to his mouth. He cannot speak. Tenazuchi appears beside him. She sees them too. She lets out a small ragged sound that is half a laugh and half a sob. She steps out into the path. She does not run. Her old legs will not let her. She walks. They meet halfway. The old woman's hands cup her daughter's face. The old man arrives last with his oak staff. He sets the staff down on the gravel. He takes both his daughter's hands in his old red ones. The young woman lets them. She lets her mother smooth her hair. She lets her father hold her hands. She lets them stand in the path and weep. She does not weep herself. She has done a different kind of weeping, all night long. Susanoo waits a few steps away. He does not come closer. He has learned, in one night, when not to step into a room. The silk, wrapped blade is held quietly behind him, out of their sight. When the family is ready, the old man wipes his face with the back of one hand. He turns. He looks at the stranger on the path. He bows, the lowest bow he has ever given, lower than any village man bows to any lord. Susanoo bows back, lower than the old man, lower than any god has ever bowed to any mortal in this country. The family gasps. He says quietly, "I came to your hut because I needed somewhere to be. Thank you." The villagers begin to come up the path now, drawn by the sound of birds, drawn by the strange steadiness of the morning, by full light. 20 men stand at the edge of the slope and look at what has happened in the night. They do not share. They do not shout. They look, and they understand, because each of them has carried a sister, a daughter, a wife in the back of their chest for 7 autumns. The silence is the right thanks. They go to work, without instruction, quietly. They begin to cut up the long body. They burn the tails on a pyre at the upper slope. They wash the cleared earth with bucket after bucket from the river. They take down the 8-walled fence. The tails take the longest to burn. Pine smoke and serpent oil rise into the sky in a thick gray column visible from 3 valleys away. By afternoon the column is a kind of announcement, visible even from the doorway in the sky. Far above, in the high plain of pale gold, a luminous figure pauses at the entrance of a great pavilion. She has been refusing to look down at the lower world for some time. Today, the smoke is the only thing she allows herself to notice. She does not yet know that the smoke is from her brother's work. She does not yet know what is wrapped in pale rice, white silk in his hands at this hour. She only knows the smoke smells somehow like an apology. Down at the hut, by mid-afternoon, the old woman has cooked a small simple meal. Rice, pickled radish, hot tea. There is no celebration. There is only food, set out for everyone who has worked, and a quiet fire. They eat in silence. The old man, the old woman, the daughter, the storm god. Across the worn straw mat, the silk-wrapped blade lies between them all. None of them mentions it. Today it is simply at the table. Maybe you have eaten a meal like that. The hardest part of the day is over. You are too tired to talk. The food itself is doing the work of saying, "We are here. We are still here. We are eating together." After the meal, the old man rises slowly and steps outside. He returns with a small object held carefully in his hands. A flat round disc of polished bronze, set with fine carving along its edge, a small mirror family old. He sets the mirror on the worn straw mat beside the silk-wrapped blade. He says, "It is not much. It belonged to my mother's mother. We have nothing else to give. But I know who you are now. I think I have known since you walked in." Susanoo looks at the mirror. He looks at the silk-wrapped blade. He looks at the old man. He is being given a gift he did not ask for. And he understands, with sudden quiet clarity, what he is meant to do with it. He says, "Then I will accept it, and I will use it as you intend." He picks up the small bronze mirror. He sets it carefully on top of the silk-wrapped blade. They look together like 2 halves of a single thought. He looks across the worn straw mat at Kushanada Heim. He says simply, "There is one more thing I must say before I send the gift up. It is for you." "Will you let me say it?" She nods. He says, "I do not know how to be a husband. I have only ever known how to be a storm. But I will learn. If you would have me, if you would let me try, I would build a roof for the 2 of us in this country." Honestly, slowly. As she did the night before, the room waits, the fire pops once. Then she says, gently, "I would have you. If you will learn, I will help you learn." The old man makes a small sound. The old woman covers her face. Susanoo bows his head once. He says, "Then before I build that roof, I must send a different gift north, to the doorway in the sky." That afternoon, with the village watching from a respectful distance. He climbs alone up the path beside the hut. He carries the silk-wrapped blade in both hands. He does not carry the small bronze mirror. The mirror, he has decided, stays here. He climbs to a small high meadow above the hut, a clearing of pale grass and scattered gray stones with a single old pine in the center. The kind of place the old gods of this country would notice, even from very far away. He sets the silk-wrapped blade carefully on a flat gray stone at the base of the old pine. He kneels. He places his hands flat on his knees. He breathes once. He looks up at the pale gold afternoon sky. He does not raise his voice. He says very quietly enough that only a sister could hear it from very far away, "I am sorry. I have been sorry for a long time. I do not have the words. I have this." He lifts the silk-wrapped blade. He unwraps the white silk slowly. The slim pale blade glows soft cool blue once again in the afternoon light. He holds it horizontal in both hands above the flat gray stone. He says, and his voice is steadier than any storm now, "Sister, I send this to your hand. From the body of the thing I was sent down to break, I do not ask for a path home. I ask only that you take it." The sky does not split open. There is no thunder. There is no answering ray of light pointing down at him. He has stopped expecting that. But the slim pale blade lifts from his open hands, slowly, as if drawn by a careful unseen current. We pause one more time, because what has just happened, a god pulling a sacred sword from inside a serpent's body, is in old Japanese storytelling, not really about the killing. A sword pulled from a body, in this culture, was a sign that the body was never the real owner of the sword. Something had been carried for a while. Something had been held in the dark, and now it was being given back. It is, in a way, the same shape as repair. Something we have been carrying for too long, anger, shame, and old grief, is taken out of us. We do not get to keep it. Someone else, a quieter person, takes it home. The old listeners of this story knew, when they heard about the sword in the tale, that they were also hearing about themselves, about all the heavy things they had been carrying that had never really been theirs. A serpent in a ravine, then, can be many things at once: a flooding river, a village's grief, a god's old anger, and in the end, the body that has been holding something it was never meant to keep. We are back, now, to the meadow. The slim pale blade rises higher. The afternoon clouds part softly above the meadow. The cool blue glow becomes warm pale gold as the blade reaches the height where mortal eyes can no longer follow it. Then it is gone. Susanoo lowers his hands. He kneels again at the base of the old pine. He sets his palms flat on the cool gray stone where the blade used to lie. He stays there a long, quiet while. There is no answer from above. There does not need to be. He has, for the first time since he was sent down, given something instead of broken something. The work of being a different kind of god has begun in him. He stands. He picks up the folded square of pale white silk. He folds it once more smaller, and tucks it carefully into the front of his charcoal gray kimono against his chest. He starts down the path. At the hut below, the old couple wait at the doorway. Kusanada, Heim stands beside them. The old man has his oak staff again. The old woman has a small clean cloth. The daughter has her hands folded calmly at her waist. He returns. He kneels at their threshold. He bows. He says, "It is done. I have sent it. We may begin." The old man nods. The old woman steps forward and puts her clean cloth gently against his face, where the wet had dried. They go inside. The fire is built up again. Tea is poured. The villagers come and go through the afternoon, dropping off small gifts on the threshold. Rice, dried fish, a folded blanket of warm wool, a small clay jar of plum wine. A village does not always know how to say thank you, so it brings food. It brings cloth. It brings the things its hands made over a long winter. The old couple's threshold has not held this much in 7 autumns. That night, by the small hearth, Susanoo and Kusanada, Heim sit on either side of her parents and share the plum wine. It is sweet. It is gentle. It is nothing like the 8 times brewed sake on the slope above. They do not talk much. They sit. They watch the fire. They listen to the river. The old man falls asleep first, his white beard against his chest. The old woman covers him with a folded blanket and smiles at her daughter. Susanoo and Kushinada, Haim step quietly out of the hut and stand at the doorway. The night is cold. The river is loud with new ice along its banks. The stars are very clear. The pale moon just past full is low, he says. And there is a kind of carefulness in his voice that has not been there before. I will need a place to build. A clearing, wood, a river nearby. We could go look in the morning. She says, I know a place. South of here, a wide valley. There is a clearing called Suga where I used to go as a child. The sky there is, it is a kind of gentle. You will see in the morning. She does not say, where my sisters and I played. She does not need to. He hears it anyway. He nods once. He says, then we will go to Shugo in the morning. And we will see if the sky there will accept a roof. They step back inside. The old couple sleeps on. 2 new mats are unrolled on the far side of the hut for the storm god and the daughter. The fire is banked. The hut, after 7 autumns of fearful nights, is quiet in a different way. He sleeps for the first time in many days. Not deeply, not perfectly. But the wind through the pine outside the hut sounds, tonight, like wind through a pine. Not like a sentence shouted at him from above. He notices that. Dawn comes again. He wakes at first light. He steps outside. He stands at the doorway. The old couple is already up. The brewer has come with a small farewell gift. The villagers begin to gather along the river path. 2 fresh horses have been brought somehow. A small wooden cart for a few simple things. A folded blanket, a bag of rice, the old man's second best teapot, a small bundle of fresh chopsticks. The old couple insists. The old man gives Susanoo the small bronze mirror he set out the night before. He says, take this with you. Set it on whatever roof you build, so that when the sun rises she will know which house is yours. Susanoo bows and tucks the small bronze mirror into the front of his charcoal, gray kimono, against his chest, beside the folded square of pale rice, white silk. He bows once more to the old couple. They bow back. Kushinada Haim kneels in front of her mother. The old woman cups her daughter's face. They do not speak. There is nothing left to be said for the moment that has not already been said with hands. The old man steps in. He sets his hand briefly on his daughter's hair, then on Susanoo's shoulder. He says, if the sky over Shuga is gentle, light a small fire each night. We will see the smoke from here. We will know. They mount the horses. The old couple raises their old red hands. The villagers raise theirs. The 2 ride down the gravel path beside the river toward the gentle valley of Suga, at the soft pale gold of full morning. The ride to Shuga takes most of a day. The river runs cleaner with each mile they travel. By midday it is no longer rust-tinned. By afternoon, it runs clear and bright. The country, it seems, is letting out a held breath. They reach Shuga at late afternoon. A wide, gentle valley between low pine ridges, the river curving softly through the center. A wide grass clearing at one end where the sky opens overhead in a particular kind of warm, pale gold. They dismount at the edge of the clearing. They walk together to the center of the grass. He looks up at the sky. She looks at him. He says, very softly, almost in surprise,
Yes, here?
They make camp at the edge of the clearing that first night. They cook rice over a small fire. They light a small lantern at the edge of the grass. A signal, as the old man asked, that the sky over Shuga is indeed gentle. Far away, downstream, in a doorway by a misty river, the old man sees a small thin column of distant smoke against the pale evening sky to the south. He sets his hand briefly to his chest. He smiles. He sleeps better that night. The next morning they begin to build. He fells the first cypress. She marks the foundation with a long, careful line of small white stones from the river. Within a few days, fresh pale wood frames stand in the clearing. He works with his sleeves rolled and his face open in a way it has rarely been. She works beside him with a steady, patient strength. The villagers from her old home come south to help, 2 by 2, when their own work allows. Slowly, a small palace rises in the clearing. Pale cypress beams, a high gable roof, a wide gravel courtyard at the front, a stone water basin at one corner, a broad open doorway at the center, hung with a fresh white Norran cloth. On the last day, Susanoo climbs to the high ridge of the new roof. He carries the small bronze mirror in one hand. He sets it carefully into the wood at the highest point. He fixes it there with a single bronze nail. He climbs back down. He walks across the gravel courtyard to where Kushinada, Haim, is waiting in a soft pale gold kimono with embroidered cranes. Not pure white today, not pure rice fields white, a wedding white hers. The old couple has come south for the day. They stand at one side of the courtyard with the small brewer and a few villagers from both valleys. There is no priest. The clearing itself is the witness. The sky above is the priest. He takes her hand, she takes his. They share 3 small wooden cups of clear fresh sake from the brewer's first new spring batch. The old wedding way of this country, in turn. The 3rd cup they finish together. We pause one final time, because in old Japanese myth, a marriage between a storm god and a rice field princess is never only a wedding. It is the country itself making a decision about how to live with itself. A storm god marrying a rice princess meant, to the old listeners, that storms could be lived with. That the country was not at the mercy of weather. That weather could be invited inside, given a roof, taught the shape of a household. It also meant, and this is the deepest part, that even gods who had broken everything once could, if they were patient, be allowed to learn how to keep something, to stay, to build, to repair. The old listeners heard, in the wedding at Suga, the country's own quiet promise to itself, that no one is too storm-shaped to be folded, eventually, into a household that loves them. We are back now, to the courtyard. The 3rd sake cup is finished. Susanoo lifts his head. Above the new roof, the sky has done a particular thing. 8 small white clouds have risen, gentle and tall in a column above the new ridge. He looks. She looks. The old couple looks. The brewer points and laughs softly. The villagers gasp. 8 white clouds. The exact number of heads they cut, the exact number of vats they brewed. A sign the country agrees, a sign. Susanoo's face does something it has never done before. It opens. Not in grief. In a careful new kind of joy, that is also a careful new kind of peace. Words come, almost on their own. He says, out loud slowly, surprised at himself, 8 clouds rise. 8 clouds rise above Izumo. To enclose my wife, I make 8-fold walls, those 8-fold walls. The country's first poem, the old listeners say. The first waka spoken, not by a court poet at a desk, but by a storm god in a courtyard at his own wedding, surprised that he had any gentle words in him at all. Kushinada, Haim, listens to the words. She does not interrupt. When he finishes, she takes his hand again. She says simply, yes, that is right. That is what we built. He laughs once, soft and tired and deeply alive. That night, in the new palace, they share a meal with the old couple and the small brewer and a few villagers. The fire is built up in the new stone hearth. The white Norran cloth in the doorway lifts gently in the warm evening wind. The old couple goes home that next morning, taking small gifts of southern rice and a fresh set of pale wooden chopsticks. The brewer leaves the day after. The villagers slowly drift back to their own valleys. The new palace settles into its first quiet. The seasons pass. Snow falls on the high gable roof. Plum blossoms come. The river beside the courtyard runs clean. Susanoo learns to sweep a floor. He learns how to sit still long enough to listen. He learns, slowly, to be a husband. Far above, in the high plain of pale gold, Amaterasu, with her brother's slim pale blade in her own careful hands now, has named it. No Murakumo no Tsurugi, the sword of the gathering clouds of heaven. She has, in her quiet way, decided to forgive. Not because the slim blade earned it, but because the brother who sent it up to her had, at last, sent something, not taken something. The sky, after a long pause, brightens by a very small degree. Down in the courtyard at Shuga, on a soft afternoon some seasons later, Susanoo is mending a torn sleeve. He looks up, for no clear reason, and smiles at nothing. Kushinada Haim, watering the plum tree, sees him. She smiles too. 8 small white clouds again, this time, rise above the high gable roof of the new palace. Just for a moment. Then they drift apart, one by one, into the pale gold sky over Shugud. The country has answered. The old story has settled into its shape. This is the moment most retellings never quite say out loud. The serpent is dead. The sister is forgiven. The bride is happy. The country is calm. And the storm god, for the first time, has chosen the shape he wants to be. He is no longer the god who broke a heavenly weaving hall. He is no longer the god who was cast down. He is the god who, having been given nothing, brought back a sword from inside a body. The country remembers him this way. The serpent is gone. The slim pale blade is in his sister's hands above. The household is gentle. The 8 white clouds drift apart slowly into the wider sky. The wind in Suga this evening smells of plum blossoms and pine. The slim pale blade far above glows soft and steady on its altar. The country far below breathes its first peaceful evening in 7 autumns. The story has done what stories are for. It has made a quieter shape of a storm. So, what was the serpent really? The old listeners had a few quiet answers. None of them were a monster. Most of them were closer to a river. The high river in Izumo has 8 headstreams, 8 tributaries. Each year the snowmelt swells them. Each year, before the dikes were built, those 8 streams flooded. They took crops. They took daughters. A serpent with 8 heads, then, was the river itself. 8 thirsty mouths in the spring, coiled in the mountain ravines, coming down each year, always taking a daughter. To defeat the serpent, then, was to learn how to manage the river, to dig channels, to build dikes, to make 8 gates and 8 vats, to turn raw flooding water into something gentler, something the country could share a cup with. The 8 vats of sake, in this reading, were the 8 new channels. 8 calmer branches the river was finally taught to flow into. The trap was an irrigation plan. The trap was the country's careful patience with itself. But the story is also about something more inward. About what we do with grief that has been coming for us, year after year. About whether we keep walking the same path up the slope, or set 8 gates of our own. The 7 sisters are easy to miss. They never speak. They never appear on the slope. They are the years before the country decided that the path could be different. Each story, the old listeners said, has its 7 sisters. They are the years we did the same thing, because we did not know there was another way. They are not failures. They are the country's slow learning. The 8th daughter does not blame them. Neither should we. The calm in his hair is its own quiet thing, to be made small, to be tucked carefully out of harm's way, to be carried by the very person who is doing the dangerous work, and trusted to bring you home. Maybe you have been a calm in someone's hair. Maybe you have carried a calm of your own. The shape is the same either way. Care is care, in old Japan as in any other house. The slim, pale blade in the tail is the strangest piece. The serpent had been carrying it inside its body for centuries, without knowing, without using. The body was a vessel for a thing it never owned. That is one of the deepest old Japanese ideas. That something terrible, a flood, a grief, an old anger, can be carrying secretly, something that was never meant to belong to it, something we are meant to take out. The work, then, is not only to slay. The work is also to listen for the soft ringing inside, to split the body of the old grief carefully, to find what was hidden there, to clean it, wrap it, send it home. The doorway in the sky is a sister we hurt, maybe a person, maybe a younger version of ourselves, maybe a place. The slim pale blade is what we found in our own old serpent, and chose, finally, to send back. The wedding at Suga is the country's quiet promise. That repair is allowed. That a storm god can build a roof. That the same hands that broke a heavenly hall can, In time, mend a charcoal gray sleeve. The 8 white clouds above the new roof are how the country speaks back. Not in thunder, in gentle weather. The right kind of clouds in the right number, in the right place, a quiet yes from the sky. Maybe you have heard your own version of the 8 clouds, after a long hard year, after a difficult choice. A quiet sign from the world that says, yes, this is a shape you may live in for a while. The serpent does not return. The river runs clean. The 7 sisters are remembered each spring. The 8th daughter teaches a storm god how to mend a sleeve. None of these are small endings. All of them are quiet. The story has many shapes. A flood myth, a wedding song, a poem about repair, a picture of how to hand back what you should not have been carrying. The old listeners chose the shape they needed each night. Tonight, you can choose the shape you need too. Maybe it is the calm. Maybe the 8 clouds, maybe the small clean cloth, whatever shape you take with you. Let it be a gentle one. The slim pale blade is still a real thing in Japan. Not a metaphor, a sword. One of the 3 sacred imperial regalia, said to rest even now at Atsuta Shrine. 3 regalia, the mirror, like the one nailed to the high roof at Suga. The jewel in the form of a comma-shaped jade. The sword. Mirror jewel, sun soul story. The story itself was first written down in the Kojiki, Japan's oldest surviving book, completed in 712, and in the Nihon Shoki soon after, written, carved into shrine boards, sung at festivals. For 1300 years, the country has carried this story. It has been painted onto wooden votive plaques, sung on summer festival nights, whispered to children before sleep, spoken on wedding days. Susanoo himself is honored at Yasaka Shrine in Kyoto, at Hikawa Shrine, at countless mountain altars. The storm god the country decided long ago deserved a roof too. Modern Japan tells the story in many shapes. Animation, video games. The 8-headed serpent moves through new forms, same body, new scales. It is a kind of inheritance slowly evolving. The High River, in Shimane Prefecture, still runs through Izumo. You can walk along it. You can see the bend where, perhaps, a tired god picked a pair of chopsticks out of the water. At Shuga in Shimane, there is still a shrine, Suza Shrine. Visitors leave wedding wishes there. Couples come to pray for gentle weather over their roofs. The 8 clouds, the country still says, are listening. The first poem of Japan, the 8-fold walls verse Susanoo spoke at his wedding, is still taught in schools as the country's first waka. Children memorize it. They do not always know whose words they are carrying. A storm god stood in a courtyard in Shuga, surprised at his own gentle words, and a country wrote them down. That is the kind of legacy the old listeners cared about. A quiet sentence, kept. A river runs slowly under a low pale moon. The pine ridges are quiet. The night in old Izumo has settled. A small lantern still glows at the edge of a far valley. A thin trail of smoke rises gently against the soft pale gold sky. Next time, somewhere colder. A different sky, a different fire. Something patient is already waiting. That story is for another night. Tonight the pines breathe. The river runs. The country sleeps. We'll be here, when you're ready. Another story. Another night. Same gentle fire. The 8 clouds long ago drifted apart. The sky over Izumo has been gentle for a very long time. The serpent is gone. The river is clear. The 7 sisters are remembered each spring. A small bronze mirror still catches the moon on a faraway roof. The country is asleep. The wind moves softly through old pines. The lantern dims. The story ends gently. Good night, sleep gently. The old pines are watching. The river is kind.